Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to discuss what has been a somewhat remarkable statement from an economist at the Bank of England. It was last week. He said that people should just accept that they're poorer and stop asking for enough money to pay the bills. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So a couple of things I think to say from this statement, widely reported from a Bank of England economist. The main point he's trying to make, which has nothing to do with people accepting poverty, is quite correct. He states that the things we import have increased in price more than the things we export. As such, the overall UK economy is not growing, and so the country at large cannot expect to pay itself more. That is all perfectly true. However, he then goes on to say a couple of things which are not only not true, but completely incompatible with the capitalist model that he is part of. First, he says that businesses should not be increasing their prices. But businesses have got increased costs. The cost of energy has gone up. I mean, it's gone up enough for domestic users, but businesses are shelling out a king's ransom to keep the lights on. Other costs have gone up too, of course, especially transport. Besides, it's arguing against the concept of market forces to suggest that businesses should not put up their prices if they can get away with it and actively reduce the amount of profit they make. What the person should really be saying, if they don't believe that those businesses need to increase their prices as much as they should be saying to the government to increase price controls. But you don't expect the business to unilaterally keep its prices down. The second statement concerned workers demanding wages to keep up with inflation. Not only do we have higher costs as well, but public sector workers in particular have suffered real terms wage reductions for over a decade now. As for the comment that people in the UK need to accept that they're just worse off and just put up with it, there are two quite astonishing facts which the economist in question, Hugh Pill, seems to be forgetting. First, the government we have right now, promised that with Brexit and their stewardship of the country, people would enjoy better living standards. It is therefore something of a shock to many of the people who believed it that they're seeing worsening living standards. Not even that the living standards have just basically stayed the same. They've actually got worse. Second, it might be a little bit different if everyone was seeing a real term cut to income. However, the wealthiest in society, the very people who can most afford a real terms drop in income without affecting their living standard, are still seeing their incomes increase above the level of inflation. I mean, there's no viable argument, is there, from any position that tells people on low incomes that they must accept a lower standard of living when very wealthy people and corporations could pay more without even noticing, certainly not affecting their standard of living. You know, Starmer last week was again pointing out to Rishi Sunak that he could choose to abandon tax breaks for oil companies. He could choose to scrap non-dom status if he's struggling to find money to help people out properly or fund public services. Right now, the economy is struggling. As Pill says, we are paying more for things that we buy, charging less for things that we sell. The country can't increase its own net income, yeah. But the country is not a person, it's a society. In that regard, it's more like an organisation. An organisation can restructure its budgets. It can reduce spending in some areas in order to increase it in others. The country can do the same. We could say, look, there's a group of people here who are increasing their incomes well above the rate of inflation. Oh, and they seem to have tax breaks working in their favour. Yeah, they obviously don't need those tax breaks because they're making out like bandits during an economic contraction and cost of living crisis. So take away the tax breaks. That money can then be redistributed in the interest of the whole society. The Tories would like it to be turned into tax cuts. No. I don't need a tax cut. What we actually need to do, the government need to do, is to make sure that they put it where people need it. For example, public sector pay increases, decent ones. It was recently revealed that the government took in an extra £13 billion extra in taxes compared to their intentions. When they set out their budget last year, and you know, you don't get it quite right, of course you don't. So sometimes you will end up taking more in taxes than you expected. Well, that's happened to the tune of £13 billion. Last year, the government were claiming they couldn't afford these public sector pay increases. Now they can. because there's an extra £13 billion in their back pocket. That money could be used to give those vital public sector workers a pay increase, at least in line with last year's inflation, enough at least to end the strikes and allow those workers to wait out the final agonising year of this Tory government. Another thing people may like to consider: how many economists working for central banks for other G7 nations have told their populations to just accept that they're poorer now and stop asking for more money? Is it zero? Because I kind of feel it's probably zero. It is an extraordinary thing for anyone to say, shut up and accept your poverty in a major economy. But I think it's probably only the country whose government raised huge trade barriers with its most important market, which is in this remarkable position of having to get frustrated with people expecting to at least maintain a certain standard of living. Journalists really should be asking senior members of the government what they think about voters being told to accept that they're now poorer, to be told that they should not take action to lift themselves out of their newly acquired poverty. Would Rishi Sunak, for example, say that people should accept being poorer as a result of his government's actions? Because the right wing have a particularly ghoulish hypocrisy about this when it comes to people wanting to improve their pay. See, if a train is cancelled because the rail companies want to make more profit, not a word of complaint in the Tory press. If a train is cancelled because the workers operating that service want enough of a share of those profits to maintain their standard of living, the standard of living the government promised would actually get better, then the pearl clutching begins. If people can't get medical treatment because of chronic Tory underfunding, they say, oh, well, it's just the way it is. Anyone who could afford it should just go and use private healthcare. It would be patriotic for you to go and use private healthcare and allow those who need the NHS to use it. But if people can't get medical treatment because medical staff are on strike, it's a different tune, isn't it? I have a different view. My view is that when something is not working because a small number of already wealthy people want even more money, with no intention of doing much with it, just throwing it on the pile, I think we should be taking issue with that. It's why I am now strongly in favour of a wealth tax, something Starmer's already proposed. I think years ago I'd have been more ambivalent about it. Philosophically, I think if you've got your society set up right, there's no need for a wealth tax. Income tax is fine. But the levels of wealth now that have been permitted to grow have been so skewed that simply returning to a system of appropriate income taxation, that is no longer enough. As is so often said, poverty exists not because we cannot feed the poor, but because we cannot satisfy the rich. And poverty is now so bad, it extends even to junior doctors. Far from urging ordinary people to accept poverty, we should be asking why one of the richest countries in the world should accept any poverty. We should be asking why, almost everyone has suffered a real terms drop in their incomes, like almost every single decile in the country, percentile even, has suffered a real terms income drop for a great many years as well, not just recently. But why those right at the top have not? Why have those at the top consistently increased their incomes in real terms? And why are they the only group to have done so? That is the question that needs asking. What should never be taken seriously, even as a point of view, is that people who cannot even manage the basic standard of living should be accepting further drops now. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.